like to introduce Andrea Marwa. Andrea is a parent of a child with hearing loss, and in addition, she has several other children too, and she is also I'm not sure what you call yourself, Andrea, president, chairperson?
Yeah, it's the official name is chairperson, but people typically don't know what that means. So,
so she is the chairperson of Illinois Hands and Voices, and she is also a parent guide through our Guide by Your Side program, and she has many other hats that she does wear. So thank you, Andrea, for taking this lead on this call tonight about siblings of children with a hearing loss.
Excellent. Thank you, Terry. So this is a new topic for me. It's actually a new topic out there. When Terry had asked me to train the parent guides on this past year during training, I just went out and just started researching and seeing what is out there. And I was pretty impressed with what I found, and so I made a program to share with parent guides as well as all of you. So I am not a psychologist, this is not my expertise, but these are things that I have found on, different websites and different things. And having 3 children of my own, one having a hearing loss or a disability, however you want to phrase it, I did find a lot of these very true. And at the latter part of my presentation, I'll let you know what my take is on this. From my point of view, having my oldest being the one with the hearing loss. So one of the terms that I found when I was doing the research was specially blended families, and I liked that. It's true, because when you have a child that doesn't hear the same as the rest of us, it does change the makeup of your family. So I liked that it was specially blended families. The key thing is siblings are many things to one another. They are the closest friends. They are teachers to one another. They're companions, followers, protectors. They're also enemies or confidants or role models. They play a very important part in each other's lives. There are several different factors that can influence these relationships as well, such as family resources and lifestyles and family child-rearing practices. How does the family control its day-to-day activities and events, and how do they control their communication? That's a big influence on how these sibling relationships work. If a child sees parents constantly bickering, then a child probably constantly bickers with their siblings because they think that's perfectly acceptable behavior. And in some families, that possibly is perfectly acceptable behavior. So all those factors do influence the relationships that siblings can have. Also, the kind and severity of disabilities. The more disabilities a child has, the more difficult relationships can be with siblings. The number of children in a family has a big impact on this. Age difference between children in a family. Obviously, if you have a child that's 14 and a baby that's 2 months old, that's going to be a totally different relationship than a 2-year-old and a newborn. You've got almost a adult figure that's going to be working with that child as that child grows up. Other stresses existing in the family obviously will factor into those relationships. What are the coping mechanisms? Like I said, do they yell and scream? Is everybody quiet and calm? Does everybody overreact or do they underreact? All those things are going to be, part of that relationship. The kind and quality of support services available in the community is a big impact. I talk to people in the Chicagoland area, and the support services that they get in comparison to the smaller rural communities is hugely different. So those are big impacts as well. There are different feelings that a sibling could experience. So now we're talking about the non-disabled sibling. We're talking about the one that kind of is along for the ride, because as we know, having children with hearing loss, there are a lot of extra special things that we need to do with that child. So the different feelings a sibling could experience are compassion and understanding and tolerance, and those are the things that we hope we can instill in our children. They can also feel isolated. They can also feel embarrassed or angry and resentful. They feel a lot of responsibility and a lot of restrictions. They feel pride, love, and joy. They probably celebrate the accomplishments of their siblings way more than 2 non-disabled siblings. They probably fear lack of information. A lot of times we feel like the best thing to do is to, just tell them as little as possible. They worry about the future. They have grief and loss just like we do. They are overachievers. There are some independence and identity issues, and they can certainly feel guilt. So how can a parent help that non-disabled child? The number one thing that I read was that they can be open and honest. You have to obviously talk to the child's level of intellect and ability to understand, but let them know, you know what, your brother or sister can't hear you properly. This is why. Whatever it is that they can understand, instead of saying, always expecting them to, you just need to speak up. Explain to them why you keep saying that. Why do you keep telling me to speak up? That way the resentment levels will be less and hopefully non-existent in the capacity of the hearing loss anyway. Limit the siblings' responsibility tied to the disabled children. Again, the more disabilities a child may have, the more responsibilities might be put on that other child to go get this, go do that. Your brother or sister can't do this, so you need to do that. Acceptance in the disability. Help them to accept it. This is who your sibling is. Important. Spend one-on-one time with that child, with the child that does not have a disability. And these are the perfect opportunities to have these conversations with them. Let the siblings settle their own differences also. Don't always feel like you have to jump in and say, well, maybe they didn't hear you. Let them figure that out on their own. It will help them get a stronger relationship in turn. Welcome other children and friends into the home. Praise all the siblings. Involve all siblings in family events and decisions. Recognize each child's unique abilities and their contribution to the family. There's more ways you can help. Let your child be open and honest. If they're mad, let them talk to you about it. That's the only way you're going to have an open line of communication. Avoid comparing them. Again, you should be lucky you have hearing. That is one of the worst things you can say to that child, because then all of a sudden all those guilt feelings start coming out and things like that. Admit that you don't have all the answers. That's the number one thing. If a child thinks their parents have all the answers and we always try to have them, then, we're not going to live up to their expectations. Give equal responsibility to each child. In other words, don't make an easy path for the one that has the disability and make it harder for the other one. Make it equal. Find things that each child can do equally. Reinforce positive interactions between siblings. Educate the entire family on hearing loss. This includes extended family. This helps in so many ways. You can role play with your hearing child on how to handle other children's questions. A big thing that happens is when you're not around, people ask your child, well, what's wrong with your brother or sister? Why are they wearing those things? Or why are they moving their hands so much? Give them good ways to handle those questions and deal with those situations. Another one, like Terry had just mentioned, the Eddie Conference, attend conferences. Not only do the children with the hearing loss get benefits from you attending conferences, so do the other children. And then there are a lot of conferences that actually have child interaction possibilities as well, which is great, because then your hearing child or your child without a disability gets to see that, wow, my brother and sister isn't the only one. Look, there's 40 of them here. This, they're not alone. I feel better about this. And it makes them realize they don't have the weight of this one child, the only child in the world that has this disability. Make them aware there's lots of kids out there just like your brother and sister. Makes them feel better. Many children will emulate their parents' responses to their siblings' disabilities. So if a mom and dad are just doom and gloom and they just can't take it, and believe me, at the beginning when you find out news that you don't expect, that's the way we all feel. But, we need to try and move past that, especially for the other children in the house, and help each other get through it and understand that how you're feeling is probably how they're feeling, and how you're reacting is likely going to be the way that they're going to react as well. There's a great website, and I don't know if you're all taking notes, but if you're not, you can always contact me afterward. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd be happy to share with any of you as well, so please feel free to contact me if you'd like that. But it's babyhearing.org. There's lots of great information on there about how brothers and sisters can work with their sibling who are deaf or hard of hearing, and regardless of how they communicate, there's great information out there. So there's good news. I think there's more good news than bad, actually. Research is showing that people who have siblings with disabilities more often show increased self-confidence, independence, and patience, as well as more concern and awareness of others. Makes sense. So what's my take on it? I was looking, and I kept trying to find research that showed that how I felt was correct, and I didn't, so maybe I should do my own research. But I believe that birth order plays a huge role in how siblings respond. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, the child in my family that has a disability is the oldest child. So the younger two don't know life any other way than having a sister that they might have to tap on the shoulder, say, or speak louder, or run and find if the child doesn't have their hearing instruments on. They've always known that. It wasn't an adjustment phase for them. My guess is if you have older children and your youngest one has that it would be more difficult, that how the siblings are going to respond would be different. So I think birth order plays a huge role in how those siblings will respond. When a child with hearing loss is the oldest, it appears that there are less issues with the younger siblings. When a child with hearing loss is younger and requires a lot of additional time, you see more issues with siblings. This is when parents need to really work on equal time with each kid. They get tired of, how come we always have to go here with this child, or why do we always have to do this, or why am I always sitting in a waiting room? So there's going to be different levels of need depending on that birth order. There are several resources, and I'd be more than happy to share those with you. You can email me at ilhandsandvoices@gmail.com if you have any questions. And what I'd like to do now is open it up to you and see if there are any issues that you may be having at home with siblings, and see if we as a group can maybe decide how we would handle that, and maybe we could give good ideas to each of you. Did I put everybody to sleep?
I'm still here. I was just on mute.
Okay.
So it's Paul Johnson here. Yeah, our youngest is almost 2, so he's going with the flow too, you know.
Is he your child with hearing loss?
No. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, we have a 5-year-old daughter.
Right. Yeah. So you'll find that he really doesn't know life any different.
Yeah.
And I mean, there could still be things that come up, but I think that's going to happen even if a child doesn't have disabilities, you know. But yeah, that is exactly the experience that we've had here as well. Because our oldest is 10, and then we have an 8 and a 5, and the 8 and the 5-year-old that's been their life.
We're kind of interested in hearing what's to come here. So far they're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't even bother her ears or anything. So.
Yeah. Well, a lot of questions are, when am I getting mine? That's what I remember my 8-year-old asking. When am I getting my hearing aids?
Yeah, our daughter has told us that when he gets his hearing aids, his are going to be blue.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And that's when it's probably a good idea to start doing to make your older child understand, you know what, they're probably not going to have a hearing loss, but hey, we can go to this event, and there's going to be lots of other children with it, so that they understand that they're not the only ones. Because a lot of times that happens too, where they get in the situation of thinking, I don't know anybody else with hearing aids, so what happens to me when I grow up? So that's a big thing too, and that's why it's a great idea to try and connect with other families that have children that have hearing loss as well, so that your child knows they're not out there by themselves.
Yeah, that's a great point, Andrea. I mean, in the past, there wasn't so much support for families and so many events and opportunities to gather. And many of the children, were the only one in their school that had a hearing loss. And so they thought when they grew up, when they were going to grow up, that they wouldn't grow to be old because they never saw any adults or older people with a hearing loss or hearing aids or whatever they needed. So that's one of the things that the little light bulb went off on my head is to make sure that my son interacted and saw adults with a hearing loss and stuff so he'd feel comfortable and know that it wasn't going to go away.
This is Sarah. I have a 3-year-old who does not have a hearing loss and a brand new 7-month-old who does. This has been so interesting. I've been thinking a lot about our older daughter and how she has been experiencing all the appointments and, different headbands, trying to keep the hearing aids on, the baby, and all sorts of stuff. I would love to hear anybody's input on how to help my older daughter field questions from other kids, because the preschool that she's at now, she started preschool right after we had our younger daughter, so we kind of introduced all those kids to my younger daughter's hearing aids and all that, but then I can just see as she gets older and she meets new kids, then those kids may have questions about the baby's hearing aids and that kind of stuff. So any input would be great.
I think just giving her the information as to, obviously it's going to grow with her as she grows, as she gets older and understands things more. But I think just for her to be able to say, that's a hearing aid, and they wear a hearing aid because it helps them hear because they don't hear like we do. But now with the hearing aid they can hear, so you can talk to them. Or if you have a child that signs, which is very well a possibility as well, then the sibling can say, that's how they talk with their hands. I'd be happy to help you to learn a few signs so you can talk to her also. So I think it's just growing with the most important thing, make her comfortable with it too. Because if she's uncomfortable with it, she's going to shy away from answering any questions. But if she feels comfortable and confident, and the reason that my sibling is doing this is for this, this, and this, I think that is probably the best information and the best stuff you can give her so that she can feel those questions. And chances are, I haven't even as a parent gotten quite as many questions as I thought I would. Some of the questions were, wow, does she have an ear infection? Or, hey, does she have a cell phone in her ear? Those were the types of questions that me as a parent got. So that might be the same kind of questions that your older child will get, and just simply being able to say, oh, no, that helps her. That just helps her hear. And be comfortable with it so that she doesn't, back off and be uncomfortable.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just keep her in the loop. Let her know, hey, this is an ear mold. This is a tube. This is the mechanism, this hearing aid part. This is the computer that helps the sound go in there. Teach her at whatever her age level is, obviously, what that is. Because the more comfortable she is with it, then the more comfortable she is fielding those questions. It's kind of like talking. This is a new topic for me, so I've just even talked to Carrie just the other day and said, gee, I don't know. I mean, I only know what I researched on this. IEP Live is my forte, but the more I learn about it, the easier it is to talk about it. Same thing goes. Right. So I think just keeping her in the loop, letting her touch the hearing aid, letting her feel it, letting her change the battery, letting her, be involved with that stuff.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah, because I've been like, don't touch it, it's really expensive, I don't want to,
As long as she's not taking it and chucking it across the room, I think you're probably good.
Right,
let her touch it so that it's not a foreign object to her. Then it's not so scary because they're not that easy to break, honestly. So it's great to say, maybe get her to go get it one day. Can you go get the hearing aid? And she can bring it over, pop the battery door back on or whatever. I don't know all the hearing aid lingo these days, but, whatever she can do so that it's not uncomfortable for her. Because if it's uncomfortable for her, then any question she ever gets is going to be an uncomfortable answer.
That makes so much sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any recommendations or suggestions?
Well, I thought I'd share, this is Rebecca Johnson with Paul here, And our daughter was 3 when she got her hearing aids, almost 4. And Paul came up with a kind of good way to explain it to her, so she'd understand. And he called them her superhero ears, that she needs her superhero ears to hear. And Mommy and Daddy wear superhero eyes. We wear our glasses so that we can see. And so she still calls them her superhero ears, not so much her hearing aids. But to a 3 or 4-year-old, it kind of made more sense, than getting into all the technical terms. And it was kind of a nice way of explaining it to her. And, and why so many people wear glasses. Well, they need them to see, so they have superhero eyes. And it was just kind of a nice way to introduce it to her, someone that's young and has imagination.
Excellent.
It's worked well, so.
I know a lot of people call hearing devices the ears. I mean, they say, go get your ears on. So that's even better, because what kid doesn't like a superhero, right? So that's even better. So yeah, something like that, just whatever. Obviously you're going to have to, your language is going to have to grow with that child. But yeah, just so that they're not afraid of them, I think that's the number one thing.
And this is Carrie, I might suggest, again, depending on the age, a lot of the kids like to act things out and pretend play, role play. And so maybe doing a situation where you create a little hearing aid or whatever for the doll, and then pretend like you're asking her what's on the doll's ears, and seeing how she explains it. Just another thought, because then it's not like a sit down lesson.
Right, exactly.
And it's for her to be more shoot from the hip kind of, this is fun play, and that's the situation she'd be put on. If somebody asked her on the street, she'd have to basically, think of it right there, unless, it was really drilled in. And again, like Andrea said, the more comfortable you are telling people and talking about it, and just, in a sense, nonchalant, they feel more comfortable too.
And your child's just 7 months old, you said? Yeah, and my daughter was late diagnosed, so she was 2, and I still remember those probably that first few months walking around and people would look. And I got to the point of going up to them and saying, oh, do you know that babies can wear hearing aids too? Because it started to annoy me, and then I didn't see it anymore. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, they think my child's different. So I just wanted to prove to them, no, they're no different than you, So it's all how you're going to internalize this and how it's going to feel for you. And whatever makes it easier for you is what you need to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. It seems like so much of it I expected. I think before my little one got her hearing aids, I was sort of gearing up to get all these questions in the park or whatever, at the grocery store, and I really haven't gotten very many, although she's pulling them out a lot, so we often have a hat or a headband on her or something. But, it's interesting that I could totally see the few times that something has come up, and I can see my own reaction of, getting angry at the person or, feeling my own discomfort. I could see my older daughter. That makes a lot of sense, that if I'm comfortable with it and I'm nonchalant and I'm not, getting all upset about somebody asking a question, then she'll take that attitude on as well.
Yeah, and she'll have pride in it. I mean, it's something she's going to know that no one else knows that she knows, and she'll be able to share that information, and she will be the go-to person about that. So any kid loves that. That makes them, that's their standout. So yeah, the more she knows, the better she's going to be. Obviously, within age.
Yeah, and this is Carrie again. You give yourself some time, though, too. I mean, 7 months, and you haven't even had them that long. It'll take you time to get comfortable with the wording and what you want to say, what you want to share, and, just get comfortable with people looking, because I think it's one of those things where we're more aware of it, so then we think more people are staring or looking or involved in what we're doing anyhow. And that's not necessarily always the case. So, give yourself time, and it'll work out.
Thanks.
Good question. Anyone else have anything to share? All right. Well, I think we're good to wrap up then. So it was an earlier night than typical. The next call, like I said, in February is about assistive technology, so talking about alarm clocks and vibrating alarms and smoke detectors and all those things that you might be wondering about for the future. It might not be right now, but down the road, if you're thinking about it, we'll have the tools to share with you about that. We're also looking at planning a call just for dads. No moms allowed in the upcoming months, too, so stay tuned in our newsletters for more information about that. I'm also trying to get geneticists or somebody that has background on genetics to do a call, too. I'm striking out, but I'm still trying. If any of you do have a contact that you think might be helpful regarding that topic, please feel free to send it along to me. Maybe it's somebody I haven't tried. Other than that, thank you so much for being on the call, and we look forward to seeing you or hearing you next month.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.